And welcome everyone to another Pivot podcast. So glad you could join us once again. I am joined with my amazing co-host, Mr. Dan Jansen. How are you, sir?
Doing terrific. Good to be back at another Pivot podcast. Thank you guys all for tuning in once again. And this week we have a topic that's basically, I would say, one of the easiest pitfalls of trading. Just because, one, I think confidence level comes in and could affect somebody's mindset. And also getting the FOMO of what other people do could lead you into this type of trap. So it's the episode's based around mindless trading and following the empty gurus of taking some advice that they probably don't really have the ability to give. But it's very easy to want to be a part of that kind of wave and run up. So when talking about the gurus and the mindless trading, for you, have you fallen victim to that, or have you got yourself into any of those little traps?
I'm gonna say no. I mean, it's easy to do, but I'm gonna say no, not really. I don't think I've fallen victim to it. Have I done it where I followed somebody else's trade because my confidence was low? Yes, absolutely. I've definitely done that. But I think that my skepticism going into the markets right off the bat, it really kept me from falling victim to the gurus that are out there and believing in throwing money at them. I'm not one to give money to somebody unless I know what I'm getting. And because a lot of them, there's so much secrecy around what they're actually going to show you or teach you, that I was very, very, very tight with my wallet and was not willing to spend any money. When I came across,
there's gurus and there's mindless gurus. What would you say? How would you be able to identify even what a guru is, like a real legitimate person in the market, or what we would say is kind of a mindless smoke show of mirrors and traps?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the difference when I ran into real life trading. The education that was there, the stuff that was free. So anytime I went down the free rabbit hole of any other trading company, I would get so far, and it seemed like it was regurgitated stuff that was found very commonly on the internet, very simplistic, and it always had a million questions that weren't answered. And it was always the one that said, okay, well, if you just give me more money now I'll tell you the truth, or now I'll tell you what you're looking for. When I came across real life trading, that free education didn't have that cliffhanger. It didn't have that. It was a complete package. It had all the information. In fact, after I was done doing the education, I was like, what's the catch? This is like, what's the catch? I'm still waiting for the catch. Where's the catch? And I didn't see a catch. And I think that's the difference between someone that's truthful and going to be honest with you and someone that isn't. I don't think that and I'm not going to say that this is a blanket statement, because I don't have experience with every single trading company out there or every single educator out there. But as far as I'm concerned, if you contact me, I'm going to be very open and honest with you with my answers. I'm going to answer you the best that I possibly can. Am I going to give away everything that I do for a living? No, I won't. There's products, that's certain things that I make money doing, but I'm going to give you as much information as I possibly can, and enough that you can succeed with. The people that are trying to fraud you out, I don't think they're willing to give any of that information. That's kind of the difference, my opinion.
I would say, because there's, it's not really a fine line, but it comes down to how much time somebody puts into something. So there's a ton of people out online. There's a ton of people on YouTube, a ton of people on Discord that you could follow traders, learn from them. And you're right. I think they do give you that little carrot to follow. And then it's like, okay, but if you actually want to learn or do something, this is the package you need to buy. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even saying that's a bad strategy for some people, because I mean, how much time did they put into the course? How much is it worth?
Mm-hmm.
And is there incredible value from that? There is probably somebody out there on the internet that does have a good full package, but there's so many other gurus or fake gurus that you have to kind of go through first to find that person that actually will help you in your trading game. So I would agree with you as far as like the real life trading thing. I was just waiting for the package coming. Like where is it? And I was like, wait, no, hold on. I'm actually a better trader just following the free content, free stuff. And then obviously if you do want to follow some of the moderators like myself or Robert Falco or Johnny Guarco, Tony, Jeremy himself on the actual, as the market is happening live, just to be able to ask questions, to be able to see how they're trading, see why they're trading, and to understand like, okay, everything that I went through in the beginner, intermediate, advanced classes, those are stuff that I could just take by myself, don't have to join a trading room. But there is a little bit of a better element of community
Mm-hmm.
once you're in the rooms. And again, yeah, there's a fee to join the rooms, because any of the moderators or yourself, if you're hosting one of the rooms, or like we could just sit at home and trade those plans. It's less distracting. I mean, realistically, you're focused on the certain setups that you want, as opposed to kind of leaning off different directions. But the value of the community, you also have a lot of people watching different stocks, looking at different setups. You get to learn and understand why the other traders are trading certain ways and styles, and whether you want to incorporate that to yourself or find something that you didn't see. So there's that extra value to that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the education itself, I mean, it's free, relevant, and there's no curtains that you have to kind of open up. So I think a real we use the term guru, but a real, I guess, master in the markets, he doesn't have to make money by helping you, give you the information, right?
Yeah.
Like, they'll make money either way.
Yeah.
But if they're putting the additional time in, it's like anything. You go to a job, you put the time in, yeah, you kind of want to be compensated for that in some aspect. So,
And I think it comes across as being transparent, right? That's one of the other differences, that you need that transparency there for trust. If you don't have that transparency, you're not going to have the trust. At least you shouldn't have the trust. So yeah, it's a tough question.
I think when trading the markets, or anything financial, I mean, even if you're sitting down with a financial advisor, quote unquote, with planning out your retirement, there's just so much more trust given in the financial industry, more so than that should be. You go anywhere else, I mean, people are scrutinizing. Like, we get into the topic of the mindless trader. I mean, you don't go to your butcher to ask how you get your car fixed,
Mm-hmm.
but the first friend on Facebook that posts like, "Hey, here's a trade setup," you're like, "Oh, I got to take this thing." And you have no idea why. It's not part of your plan. It's just, but you just get the assumption like everybody else is doing something, and I'm missing out on some kind of opportunity, right? And you're like, you don't see the history of like how many losses that trader took before they posted one good trade, and now all of a sudden you're jumping in. So it's very weird, because you work incredibly hard for the money that you earn, and the amount of trust that you just put into somebody that doesn't have a proven track record, or doesn't really communicate all of their trades, or like you said, the transparency is just so you just don't want to feel like you're missing out on something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most traders, if they just follow their plans, stick to their plans, try to avoid the outside noise, you could definitely take into account a lot of what other people are trading, why they're trading it. Was it a just one-off home run that somebody hit, and now you're just taking every other bad trade that they're losing all their money to? And I think all that kind of comes into account when just people trade. But if you kind of stay in your lane and do what you're doing, I think you could be successful. It might not be the sexiest way to do it, but
right. So I think that leads to another area, I guess, because with finances, I think that we do have a tendency of passing off the responsibility to somebody else. And it's such an important asset in our livelihood that gets us into a lot of trouble a lot of times. And it's one of the reasons that you and I do what we do, because we believe that everyone should have the financial knowledge out there to be able to at least take that kind of control back for themselves. They don't necessarily have to continue managing their own money, but at least if they have the knowledge to know what somebody else is doing or what to expect somebody else is doing, it adds a level of safety that helps me sleep at night. That's for sure. So I would say that regardless of whether or not, because let me back up. I think that you and I might have different opinions about what we expect, just like I think our viewers, each of them are going to have different opinions of what's going to make their radar trigger or the flags go up for them based on our life experience and all that kind of stuff. So that being said, the one thing that we can all do is no matter what we're listening to or no matter what we're hearing from these quote unquote gurus, it's our responsibility to then take that information, do our due diligence, and test it. Test that information for ourselves before we just blindly throw it into practice. And I'll use this as an example because I used to see a lot of trading examples or trading videos that would show like a moving crossover type of trade. Just buy here, sell when this crosses over. And you see this great big giant candle and you see it hit and then you see where it crossed back over. And when you actually go back and trade the actual system, an example would be MACD crossover or actual moving averages crossover, that by the time the actual MACD crosses over or by the time the moving averages cross over, the move's already done. It's made. And so what they're showing with these candles, this looking back, it doesn't work in reality because when the candle's actually forming, you can't actually trigger that trade. Well, you would never know that just by looking at the video. It's very misleading. You'll find that out after you go and try and test it yourself and you realize, wait a minute, all of this is lagging. This candle's coming in after, or this candle was coming in before the moving average crossed over. So I can't actually do what they're saying. It makes no sense. And those are kind of the flags, I guess, that would show up and say, hey, maybe this person isn't being truthful with you or isn't being completely transparent with what they are trying to achieve here. And that's one of the things that I have learned over the last 6 or 7 years of learning to trade. So that's pretty much it.
Why do you think it's so easy for people to want to get trapped or follow these, like what makes the guru appealing?
I think finances are scary. They really are. If you don't understand them, it's like math. A lot of people are terrified of doing math, and because of that, they shy away from it. And if you can break through that barrier of fear and give them the knowledge that they need, all of a sudden those barriers move away and it's not as difficult as they think it is. But there's a stigma attached with finances. There's a stigma attached with certain types of individuals, being in the financial world. There's certain stereotypes of individuals that belong in the stock market or individuals that belong in the financial markets or people that have qualities that make good investors. There's all of that. Even your history, I guess, with money could play into that role. If you've been in debt or if you had one experience where you got into the market and you did it wrong, or you followed somebody and you lost your shirt, that's going to create a taste in your mouth that's going to stay with you forever. It's that first impression that could potentially keep you from learning what you need to learn and then trusting other people to tell you what to do with your money. And it's very, very sad.
Yeah, I agree. So I think it's the lack of knowledge and time, I think, go into, like, if you think like income is your greatest source to wealth, right? Consistency, income, but the amount of hours you put into studying, whether in school or a specialty school or something like that, in order to achieve that income. And then once you get that position, the amount of time that you're putting in to continuously earn the income, keep the job, keep the position, you're focusing a lot of time, energy. So you become, in a sense, a professional in what you do, right? You're guru in your own sense as to what you actually do. And there's somebody in life right now behind you, looking up to you, saying, how do I get to where that person is, right? Like, no matter what the job or career path is. When it comes to financials, it's the same. I think it's the same situation where you you hear the different jargon, you don't understand what the language is that people are using, right? So you have that little barrier, and now you're limited on time because you're still focusing on what you have. But your income, which is your greatest source to wealth, that you've spent so much time, hours, energy trying to achieve, you're saying, okay, if I give this to somebody else, whether you're hitting the buttons yourself or you're giving it to a financial advisor that you met with from an insurance company or something like that, they don't always, number one, have your best interest in hand, and number two, are you putting in the same amount of hours to really focus on what, even if the guru's information is accurate and fair and everything's above board, are you really doing yourself justice by hitting the buttons without the same amount of time, knowledge, really understanding what you're doing? Or are you saying like, oh, I get the concept and this guy is doing it, right? So it's just, I think it's almost a way out for people to say like, okay, how do I really get to the next level? I'm killing what I do for a day job, killing what I do for a career, but how do I get to that? Like, I still have the mortgage, I still have the car payments, I still got health insurance bills, I still got kids' school, I still got XYZ. How do I get to the next level where I don't really have to worry about that anymore? And it's just so tempting for somebody to say, you know what, here, you seem to know what you're doing. I'll just blindly follow you into this path. Or if it's a retirement advisor or something like that, like here's the money, you do what you think is best with it. And you kind of take your eyes off the focus as to, it's really not that difficult to trade, to learn to invest, to be successful at what you're doing, but you do have to put some kind of hours into it, really understand what's happening, and put the time in as if you were to do anything else. So I think it's the lack of knowledge and commitment to the process that throws people off, and it just makes it easier to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. And Dan, let me ask you, how much trading education did you get in school?
No, I would like to say 0, but there was in like 7th grade, there was a class. So I would say 7th, and it was buy, hold, and we were reading out of the newspaper at that point. So
Yeah,
it's different.
It's exactly the same thing that I did, which was look in the newspaper, find the ticker, you look at the price, and you follow it for a week. I think that was the extent of the stock market knowledge. So you graduate, you move out, and what are you told by your parents? Get a job, work hard, take your money to the bank, call a financial advisor. These are all things that we're taught. We grow up with this information. So it's no wonder that we have this great big giant fear around money management and doing it ourselves. Even budgeting. How much information did you get taught as a child to budget? It's just stuff that doesn't get taught in schools. And because of that, you rely on your parents, whatever they're going to teach or what they're showing you. And you're going to duplicate what they show. And when fear is a lack of knowledge. Fear comes from the unknown. Fear comes from not knowing. And I think the stock market and I think finances is one of those great big giant unknowns. Yet it's something that we all want. We want financial freedom. We all want to seek it, but a lot of us just don't know where to start. And
and I think you're right too. So it is a slippery slope as far as like they don't really teach finances in school. And your only choice is really to follow kind of what did your parents do, right? Which is I mean, they made it to where they're at, and that's kudos to them. But if you're really trying to learn, like, who taught them, right? And,
exactly.
And if your parents are following somebody else, their parents, who taught them, right? So there's got to be some kind of chain that breaks in the link, or a link that breaks in the chain that really you start to understand for yourself. Like, this is not. It's not as scary as people want you to think.
Yeah.
Right? And the financial industry wants you to think it's very scary because that's where all their money, like if everybody just self-traded themselves, self-invested, where's all those commissions going? Right. Into like, that's how they make their money, on being trying to keep it as difficult as possible. So that's why something like real life trading was extremely appealing, where you go on and you have the education there. You have a community of people trying to break that link in the chain just like you are, and just trying to really get to the next level and be what I guess they would call a savvy investor. I honestly, I don't think there's a single real guru out there. I think there's great teachers in the market. And I mean, if there's going to be a good guru, it's yourself. Like, you're going to be your own personal best guru that you could ever find.
I agree. Let me ask you this, Dan. Was there a time in your life when you felt like you just needed money, money would solve all your problems? Was there a time when you felt like that?
Now? Like,
No,
just
no.
now.
At any time in your life.
Yeah, right this second. That would be tremendous.
Yeah. Okay. Now, did you ever buy a lottery ticket?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So that's the thing. We all seek financial freedom. We all want financial freedom. But how many people have heard of somebody hits it big? They hit it big in the lottery. They get those millions of dollars. And then they do that 1 year later or 2 years later, look back, and they're completely broke again. And the reality is that we think that money is going to solve our problems. We think that we just need it. Once we have it, then we'll be miraculously able to become the Warren Buffetts of the world. But the truth of the matter is, unless you learn about money and unless you actually get over that fear and learn about your financial management, you are going to run the risk of maybe even getting that money and then losing it anyway. So it's not just about making the money, it's also about keeping the money. So there's some advantages to actually overcoming that fear, learning it, regardless of whether you want to manage it yourself. Because the other issue is, how many people have heard of professional athletes or actors or any type of professional that makes a lot of money and finds out later that their accountant embezzled it, or their parents embezzled it, or whoever was taking care of their finances for them walked away with all of it because they knew how to make it, because they had a skill that they were offering. All this money was coming in, but they didn't know how to manage it and keep it. So it's more than just learning how to trade the stock market. Is actually understanding financial fundamentals. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned, Warren Buffett, like a lot of people, I think, do have that assumption of, well, I mean, look how much money he has, so it's easier to make money in the market. I mean, just on dividends alone, he's getting millions of dollars a week just on dividends at this point. But they don't realize, like, he started with nothing. Like, he didn't come from a rich family. I think he read a book when he was 7. It was like 100 ways to make $1,000 today or something like that, right? And it was like, that was his start. And they don't realize that he owned a lot of businesses from the time he grew up, from being a paperboy to actual businesses. So he was building. And I'm sure 100% of the moves he made was not correct. Like, there's trial and error along the way, but he also built from a young age that budgeting aspect of things. He understood risk to reward. And I think his first stock he got into, I think he was 11 years old, I think, when he bought his first stock, but he got it at $38, whatever stock it was. It dropped down to like 24. He just didn't sell it. I mean, he wasn't like overly on margin call on his trade, but it was very conservative. But it dropped to like 24. He didn't sell it, and then he ended up selling it for like $40, right? A little bit later. So he built the long holds mentality, but he got a taste of, like, so if I invest in something, I'll make the money back. And then I think like a year or two later, it went to like $200 a share. So he also got the opportunity to build his, what we know now for the Warren Buffett is the buy and hold type mentality. Where if you're putting in the right conviction on your trades and the right conviction on your trading plan, even if you're day trading, swing trading, to understand, like, the process works, you just can't change it 1,000 times. You have to have the conviction to what your process is. You have to back trade your process. You have to understand why something works, and then when you get into your trade, know if it's a trade or if it's a long-term hold, and really just kind of follow that plan. If you're doing that consistently, you start to understand a little bit more each trade you make about the market, and then you start to build that knowledge of, wait, I this is something I could do myself.
And that, I guess, that's the biggest takeaway from this entire episode is, I believe this is my takeaway anyway, or my wisdom that I'm going to put on everybody. I believe that everyone should learn the financial markets. I believe that wholeheartedly. I don't think that you're going to be hurt by doing that. I believe learning in learning what you can, but then using your own discernment and practicing it and taking that responsibility to make sure that what you're learning is true and repeatable. And then from there, go through the process of doing what you need to do, which is set up a plan and go from there. So those are the takeaways. Don't trust anyone. That includes me. Even the stuff that I teach you, if you were to work with me or work with Dan, don't take it for face value. Test it for yourself. It works for us. We understand it. Maybe you may not understand it correctly. Maybe you do understand it correctly, but maybe it doesn't suit your personality. Maybe there's other reasons, whatever it might be. But you shouldn't be trusting or taking the word of anybody, in my opinion. You should be testing it out for yourself and making sure that you can duplicate whatever it is that they're trying to teach you. And that doesn't mean that they're fraudulent. It just means that it has to work for you. And not everything is the same. We don't always think the same. We don't always act the same. So that's my words of wisdom. That's the way that I operate in what I learn and how I move forward in the world.
I would say in the mentor groups that I teach, like we set up trades that I would take. We set up what I would look for. We go over that. But no matter, there is no perfect strategy. And based on where everybody's at in their life, I mean, their risk tolerance could be different. They could grow up with a different background than myself or you. That could go into their psyche when trading. And it's either they have to kind of learn to, how do I get around that psyche or limitations that I put on myself? Or is there maybe just a strategy that might work better for you in that sense? But both myself and you are consistently profitable traders. So we could only teach, like, I don't want to go out and teach something that I don't personally do myself.
Exactly.
Right. And I think when we talk fake gurus, I think a lot of them, they're trying, I think they have, for the most part, good intent as far as what they try to do and teach. But whether that's what they actually do, or you see somebody trading a certain strategy, and then when they're trading it live, they're going in with 20% of their account on each trade, just trying to hit the big one every now and then. And then, their numbers look great at the end, but like, is it really consistently profitable? But also at the same time, I don't really honestly think the market is prejudice. I think you could come into the market with, if you make $20,000 a year or you make $1 million a year, you should start to learn the market. You should start to understand how the markets work, because that will set you up to get to the next level as to where you might want to be. It might not be day one, but it will be somewhere down the road, but you have to start somewhere. Right. And I always tell people, like, it's not the 100th push-up in a set is not your hardest push-up. It's your first push-up, right? That's when you got to get the mentality. It's when you got to get the form down. That's when you got to figure out what you're trying to do in order to be able to do even the beginning of it. So start somewhere. But I think any level of income, is the markets are a great place for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Great point. Now, moving on, our contest for the month of March and April, the contest for February, March is now over. So what's our next step?
So myself and you, we'll spin a little wheel. We'll figure out of the submissions that we got from the previous criteria, setting your trading plan and your reason as to why you trade. We will pick somebody. We're also going to reach out to them. We'll record an episode just to kind of go over live with you your trading plan that you submitted, and try to see if we could understand the whys as to why you do it, and try to go through, see if there's any spots we can see in the trading plan that we should work on or maybe build out a little bit more. But I think that was a good teaching lesson for everybody out there that is listening or submitted plans that did not get picked, or if you're still working on your plan, you could take that into account. But for the next round, for the next competition, we do have until the end of May, so the last day of May, we will have that this portion of the competition open for you guys. And you want to tell them a little bit more about the criteria for them to get into it?
Sure. So what we want you to do for the next couple months, so the month of April and May, we want you to now take the trading plan that you have developed, and we want you to back trade that trading plan. My preference is that you back trade it over a duration of at least 3 months of market data. Now, that doesn't mean you back trade now for 3 months. It just means you have to back trade, which means you go back. So if you were to back trade starting today, we're in the beginning of April, you would back trade, March, February, and January at a minimum with your trading plan. That's step one. We're encouraging you to do that. I'd also like to see you do at least 100 trades. that you log of your back trading. Now, this is just a challenge to do this on your own. The contest part, however, is this. What we want you to do is record 3 trades. 2 of those trades are going to be back traded. 1 of them is going to be paper traded or live traded with real money if you're there. Our preference is that you stay with your paper trading and your back trading. The 2 of them are back trading. 1 of them is paper trading, following your plan. And then we want you to submit those trades, preferably with video that you've recorded yourself actually doing the back trade or doing the paper trade, accompanied with your trading plan so that we can see that you actually followed the rules that are in your trading plan. If you can't do video or you don't want to do video, then screenshots will be fine. You can submit those to Tracy@reallifetrading.com or Dan@reallifetrading.com. And again, those submissions need to be submitted by the end of May. And everyone that submitted in the last contest, your names will also be thrown into the end of the year draw for our 2-hour coaching session that we'll be giving away. And the same thing will be taking place with this contest. We'll draw a winner for it, and then all of the names that submit will get thrown into the end of the year draw. Did I miss anything? I think that's about it.
I think you were way more thorough than I could possibly be. So that's perfect for me.
All right.
But we are just about out of time. Can't wait to see all the new submissions. Very excited about the next phase of the competition. Thank you for everybody for participating in the first one. And in worst case, like I said, we will pick one person, but for you guys that did submit, and if you did not get chosen, and worst case, I hope you have a solid trading plan set up. I hope you guys learned something from that portion. Each competition we do, we want you to grow as traders. So, and like we said, we do have the final prize where we will do a full 2-hour mentor program with you, coaching session with you guys. So thanks again for tuning in, Tracy. Always a pleasure hosting the Pivot Podcast with you, and we'll catch all you guys next time.